let's just talk about joy, right? And let's look at our code, right? Joy is a first principle of cosmos. At the Upanishads, I'll just give you one example. The Upanishads, right, say beautifully, right? The sage meditated and found that Brahman, the absolute, is joy. For from joy all beings are born, in joy all beings are sustained, and into joy they enter at death to be generated again. All being is born in bliss, and all being is sustained in ananda, right? In bliss, joy. Joy is not, and it's so important to get this in the deepest way, joy is not a psychological construct, right? Joy is the quality, it's the first value of cosmos itself. And in order to make this revolution, in order to stand poised between utopia and dystopia, we actually have to access directly the quality, or the actual quality of evolutionary joy. So let's take a couple of steps here. So number one, I want to just deepen with you what we talked about last week, and let's go all the way. Let's create a joy equation, just a simple joy equation. This is the joy equation, but this is not how joy works. This is the false joy equation that is the calculus of most of reality today. So the equation is what I have plus sign, what I'm missing equals joy. What I have plus what I'm missing equals joy. Right? That is the joy equation that people live with. And I'll give you just a simple example. It's a true story. I mentioned it just briefly in passing. Some of us talked about it last few days. I was in like 1920. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I was at the home of a person who owned a big zipper company, right? Very lovely man. It was a particular congregation. And I gave this talk on joy. I was like 19, 20, 21, something like that, 22. And said some of the things that we're saying today. But one of the core ideas was that like, wow, how do you get to joy? You know, and we tried to talk about this idea that you can't just say that joy is that state that I enter when I get what I'm missing. So I asked people in Raleigh, okay, what are y'all missing? And some people raised their hands. We went around the room, and people were it was a pretty middle-class crowd, you know, lovely people. And they said, you know, really, we get what you're saying, joy, first principle of cosmos. I didn't use that exact language, but really, I'll be happy when I get what I'm missing. So we had this conversation. I'm like, you know, I told you somewhere between 19 and 22. I get back there, you know, a decade later. I'm about 31, 32. And I actually got back to Raleigh and got back to the same congregation. And it was this unique opportunity. And we all remembered, right, 10 years ago when we were together. So I said, how many of you were here a decade ago? It's a true story. Right? And right, a bunch of hands went up. There must have been, I don't know, 2/3 of the people, because it was the same congregation. So do you remember the question we asked 10 years ago? So how many people got that which they put on there, I would be joyful if I got that list? And 2/3 of the hands went up. Most of the people got a promotion, got married, had a kid, whatever it was. So I asked, so how many of you are now more joyful than you were 10 years ago? And I give you my word of honor, not one hand went up. Not one hand. Because that joy equation, what I have plus what I am missing equals joy, right, is an utterly false equation. It's not true. It's not how it works, right? That's not how it happens. What's true is that joy is an immediate quality of reality that literally inheres in cosmos in every second. Molecules literally have an allured, explosive, vibrational wave quality of joy. As we feel the allurement, as we access, we find, right, we experience, right, joy's right there. We're going to see it again in a few minutes, but for those of you who remember, right, this spontaneous playing of Beethoven's Ode to Joy in a square in Italy. What's so powerful about this clip that we played last week and we're going to play again this week is that nothing changed. No one got anything in the 6 minutes or 4 minutes or 3 minutes that it took to hear Ode to Joy. What happened was people's state of consciousness changed. They didn't get anything new. There was no accomplishment. There was no child. There was no new finances. There was no new economic status. The only thing that changed was the portal to joy, right? The very door to joy, right, actually opened. And that's a very big deal, right? The door to joy opened. And you can open the door to joy. When you open the door to joy, literally the cosmos that lives in you becomes awake, right? And ecstatic, right? In a way that's actually, in some sense, unimaginable. So what music does, music is one way to open the door to joy. That's one way. How else? Music, the right music, right, actually is a key to cosmos, a key to cosmos. Let's see if we can say words clearly. It's a key to cosmos because cosmos is a layers and layers and layers of hiddenness. You know, in the original Semitic Hebrew, the very word for world is olam, O-L-A-M, which means hidden. So cosmos is layers of hiddenness, and I need the right key, right, to open the door. So joy opens the door. There's actually a text in the 3rd century which says, Shekhinah, she, right, the alive, living presence of cosmos, Eina Shoreh, does not live in a person, Ela mitoch simcha, unless they are ecstatic with joy. And ecstatic doesn't mean that you've bypassed pain. We already said, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute or two, we've already said that joy and a broken heart are not opposites. We said last week, the opposite of joy is depression, because when I'm depressed, the circuits are closed. Think about systems theory. And I just want to deepen this week what we began talking about last week. Think about systems theory. How many people know systems theory? Systems theory basically states that when you come to equilibrium, you come to stasis, and there's no new inputs from outside the system, so you're at pure equilibrium, that's death. That's depression. Aliveness is when you're far from equilibrium, you have an open looped, not a closed loop system, and you're receiving new inputs all the time. That's the nature of every moment in reality. Every moment as you breathe in, hallelujah, you breathe in and you exhale, and the inhale and the exhale, there's an entire world of joy, right? Every color, every breath, every taste, right? Every sound, the very pulsation of being itself is joy. The very current of the life force in cosmos is joy. That's the quality. It's the quality of joy that you can actually access directly. So when you enter into Beethoven's Ode to Joy, it's not the false joy equation. What I have plus what I'm missing equals joy. No, it's actually, joy is actually available in this moment. And when I can access, and every moment has a unique quality of joy. And this is critical. You've got to be in that moment. If I'm in a different moment, so for example, this is critical. And this is true about some of my friends who I know deeply and I love madly, right? Who are on with us today, right? So I went through a rough thing. I went through a trauma, right? And something closed in my heart, right? Maybe I got falsely accused. Maybe I made a false accusation. Maybe I was brutalized when I was young. Maybe I'm traumatized. So I'm not in the present. So I have no presence. I can't access the presence of joy that's in the present because I'm in a loop, and I keep looping back to yesterday. I keep looping back to the traumas of my youth or the traumas of last week or 2 years ago or 10 years ago. And something closes, and in the natural open loop system, which is receiving the input of the unique joy available in this unique moment in time, not available to me. So my system comes to equilibrium. I may be busy. I could be busy all the time, but my system is at stasis because I'm not receiving new inputs, which come only, and here's where it gets really gorgeous. New inputs come only from this unique moment of time. When this unique moment of time, and this is the first principle of cosmos, when this unique moment of time meets my unique self, right, then I access joy. So imagine, right, a cable, an electric cable. That's the dimension of me that's the same as everyone else. We're all an electric cable. At the end of the electric cable is a plug. Imagine that plug is utterly unique at the end of every cable. That plug is my unique self. I plug that unique self into the wall, meaning into reality, and I receive not a general meta pulsation of electricity, but I receive the electric joy, the electric body of cosmos, right, blowing my heart open, right, which is the unique joy of this moment, which cosmos intended uniquely for me in this moment. That input blows my heart open. That's joy, right? So when I access a general joy, right, then what's happening is I'm opening the door, right, and I can actually feel cosmos loving open. So when I listen to the kind of meta joy of Beethoven's Ode to Joy, I'm listening to it in a general meta sense, but I'm accessing it uniquely. Every single person. Let's take a look at this clip right now. Let's take a look at this clip right now. Watch everyone and watch each person fully merge into their utter uniqueness. When I'm in my utter uniqueness, then I become a puzzle piece that is joined with everyone else. So if you watch the faces of the people in the square that Christina Amelon's about to play for us in about 30 seconds, what you'll see is that everyone's in their full uniqueness, and yet they're uniquely accessing their joy. And no one in that square has solved any problem. No one's gotten a promotion. No one's gotten a raise. No one's taken care of, right, the particular tragedies of life. But in that moment in the square, they move from tragic to what I want to call post-tragic. And that's what Yeats means when he says, Yeats talks about the poet. He says, when such as I cast out remorse, so great a sweetness fills my breast. I can dance and I can sing. I'm blessed by everything, and everything I look upon is blessed. Let's take a look at that clip. Let's take a look at it together. Take us inside. All right, we ready? Here we go. Here we go. Let's. Let's breathe. Oh my God. Oh my God. Come back together, right? Oh my God. Right? Right? Now just in the chat box, let's find each other, okay? So how many people, right? Just notice, what did you see? Right? Just in the chat box, let's just be together for a second. What did you see? Who noticed a face? Right? You saw opening up, right? Did you see that guy who said, wow? Who saw that guy who said, wow? Anybody see him? Right? Did you see him? Who saw him? Right? Right? Like, wow. Did you see the people singing? Right? Singing, right? Like, right? Ordinary people in ordinary clothes. And that's why it's so much better than the classical symphony, right? These aren't people who's other, right? When you're in the symphony, you think you've kind of solved everything. You're wearing your tuxedo and your best clothes, which is beautiful. But this is an ordinary Sunday afternoon. Ordinary people in ordinary clothes accessing the extraordinary, accessing the evolutionary love, the joy that lives at the very core, right, of cosmos itself. Oh my God, right? So here's the last piece. And this last piece is so wildly important. We said it last week, but I want to deepen it this week. If we don't get that joy and a broken heart can live together, then joy becomes a bypass road. And then the revolution can't happen, right? We can't actually evolve the source code of consciousness. We can't articulate first values and first principles. We can't actually have the audacity of Da Vinci, the audacity of the Renaissance, but the Renaissance exponentialized at this moment in history, because we need an exponentialized Renaissance that lives in us, where we step forward, where we contribute. And Krishna's going to ask in a couple of minutes everyone to step up and become members, where I'm actually, that joy pours into, I become part of this. But we can't access that unless we actually avoid bitterness, which is depression that closes our heart, which means I got lost in yesterday. I can't access through my unique self, the unique joy, which is the input into my system, which actually allows me to jump to a higher level of consciousness. When you're in an open loop system, which is far from equilibrium, and you're receiving the unique input of the moment, then we know that actually even a minor fluctuation point jumps all of reality to a higher level of consciousness. I can just see in this moment, right, in Many Paths One Mountain on October 18th, I can see and hear and be in this knowing of joy. And then that joy enters me because I'm actually here, and I jump through that minor fluctuation point to an entire new level of my own being and becoming. That's fully possible. But we can't do that if I'm bitter, and we can't do that if joy is a bypass road. If it becomes a kind of superficial fun or happiness, and we love fun and we love happiness, but you can't pursue happiness, we said last week. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and the founding documents of democracy in the West is wrong. You can't pursue happiness. You pursue happiness, it runs the other direction. Joy is a byproduct of living my unique self. Unique self is the receiver of joy and the organism, right, of you. A unique self is how I receive joy. But if it becomes a bypass road to the broken heart, it doesn't work. So I've got to actually be able to experience, because when I have a broken heart, oh my God, right? Everything goes in, all wisdom goes in. There's a beautiful text, and the text reads, "And these words which I speak shall be on my heart." So the wisdom masters ask, why are the words on the heart? This is a sacred text. Why are the words on the heart? It's a biblical text. Why are the words on the heart? They should be in the heart. So my teacher 150 years ago, he wrote, it's on the heart and not in the heart, because only when your heart breaks does your heart open and receive the depth, right? So deep. So a broken heart and joy aren't opposites. You know, the Lebanese poet spoke it like this, right? I want to read it to you. We're going to finish with this. Maybe we'll just close our eyes, see if we can kind of take this all the way in, okay? And I'm going to actually take myself off screen so you can just hear the words, okay? Then a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and a broken heart. Speak to us of joy and sorrow." And the prophet answered, "Your joy is sorrow unmasked. And the self-same well from which your laughter and joy rise is often filled with your tears. And how else can it be? And friends, let's open our hearts. Listen to the next line. The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain, right? The deeper you're willing to let your heart break, the more joy you can hold. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? So the cup which was burned, seared in the flames of the potter's oven, which is the pain of the broken heart. It's that cup that can hold joy. And it's not the lute, which is the flute, the lute that soothes your spirit and brings you joy. Is that lute not the very wood that was hollowed with knives? When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find that it's only that which has given you a broken heart that has given you joy. When your heart's broken, look again in your heart, and you'll see that in truth, you're filled with tears for that which has been your delight. Some say joy is greater than a broken heart, and others say that a broken heart is greater. But the truth is, you cannot separate them. Together they come, opposites joined at the hip, one of a piece. When one sits alone with you, remember the other is asleep on your bed. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Right? Ode to joy. Can you feel that? Ode to joy.